Okay, right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar all about trees. We're really thrilled to have you all here with us today. I am Ellie from the Nature Friendly Farming Network, and if you are not familiar with us, we are a farmer-led member organisation supporting farmers to work in tune with nature and kind of, feed that transition. And we have a great group of speakers with us today, and we're going to have a very busy hour, I think. So I'm not going to speak very much at all, but I'm going to hand over shortly because we're doing this webinar in partnership with the Integrating Trees Network. And you're going to hear all about them more in a minute when I hand over to Lynn. It's just we've got four people that are working on the ground constantly in their very different settings, looking at how trees are transforming a landscape. And so, tonight we are just going to hear some of their experiences, and I think we will have a lot of questions. So please feel free to put your questions in. That we've got the question function on, and so you should be able to kind of upvote different questions so that we can at the end decide prioritize the ones that have been voted most relevant. And we have this until 8:30, so we can spill over a little bit if we do run over time, but my job is going to be keeping us to time. So as much as possible I will be giving the speakers some nudges just to make sure that we can get through everything that we want to. But yeah, without further ado, any housekeeping that I was meant to remember is that this is being recorded so that we've had lots of signups for the session, but I'm sure a fair few people can't make it to the live, so we will be sharing this on YouTube. So if you don't want to feature, then please turn your cameras off. I think they mostly are, and and just keep your mics off. And any other housekeeping, I think I've lost all my notes, so I forgot. But people will keep me right. But without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Lynn White from the Integrating Trees Network, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from her because she's got such a broad insight into so many different systems with all the farmers you work with. So thanks so much, Lynn, and over to you.
Thanks, Ellie. I'll just see if I can share my presentation now. Right, if you want to stop sharing, Ellie, just because it still thinks I can't. That's brilliant, thank you. There we go. Now, can everybody see that? Is that all right? Does that come up? Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's perfect. Sorry, Lynn. Yeah, you're good.
Right, that's great. I'm absolutely delighted that's working. Thank you, Ellie, for asking me along this evening. Just as Ellie says, a quick introduction to the Integrating Trees Network and the benefits of trees to the farming business. I'm Lynn White, Forestry and Farmland Development Officer. I actually got an agricultural background, not a forestry background, so this is how I came to be where I am with Scottish Forestry. Just to quickly say that obviously the network is supported by Scottish Forestry and Scottish Government, and the aim of the network is to enable and encourage land managers to plant and manage trees in their land. That's it in a nutshell. It's trying to get out there and speak to people and everything like that. And as you can see, it's about the practical knowledge, the experiences, the processes people have went through, the objective challenges, we didn't shy away from anything, and how it's actually made a difference to their business. So the two key reasons that the network is a success, as you can see, we've won an award and things like that, is actually they're farmer-led. It's not me and colleagues and that sitting thinking about what people should know. It's people coming to us and letting us know what they would like to know about. So we started up in March 2021 and we've run 55 events since then. That's a mixture of online and on farm and on crofting, that kind of thing. So we have a really simple and formal approach, all being there, bringing farmers together, having a good chat, asking questions, our host farmers showcasing how they're integrating trees onto their farm, sharing their experience, their really practical experiences. That's the thing we want to get. Watch and all, as I say, we don't shy away from any topic. I basically say to them, I really like my job. We can discuss anything you want, but don't get me the sack because I really like my job. So please just, but no, so far I'm still here anyway, and that's great. As I say, farmer-led, and that comes into full vision when we look at topics and things like that. So we have done biodiversity. We just did one before Christmas. We do shelter belts and shelter woodlands. We're doing one of those next week. We do it on riparian planting. We introduce our hosts. We talk about planting and management and woodland carbon code. Anything people really want to talk about. We have a great thing that Phil helps us a great deal with is T's and Trees for Crofters. So we had a discussion one night and really want to know about shelter belts and things like that. So we did an event on that. So again, farmer-led, that's what we're looking for, is that information out there that people are really looking for. And the other thing that makes the internet, the Integrating Trees Network, a great success is our fantastic hosts. We've got 17 of them across Scotland. Great to see Phil and Roger here this evening because they are both really active in what we do and have been brilliant in hosting us on crofting, on farm and that, and doing things like this is absolutely fantastic. So we have a wide range of farmers, crofters, estate managers and things like that. So we've got anything for Phil's Croft on Skye, we've got another Croft in Shetland, we've got Roger's place, we've got places at Tom and Toole, we've got Southwest, we've got like anything from 3 hectares up to 3,000 hectares kind of thing, so everything in between, and all planted trees for different reasons. So what I'm going to do quickly is just give you some examples of the farms that we work with and why they've planted trees. So as it says, a tree in the right place is not just a valuable asset to a farming business, but also to the wider environment. So that's what we're looking at. It's what it does. It's like with these kind of things that you might be looking for one thing, but what do you actually end up with? What are the other benefits and what can it do for your business? So this farm, the Adamson family, they've been with us since the beginning. It's a mixed 600-acre farm just outside Edinburgh. They fatten about 200 head of cattle, and they have a large flock of ewes producing about 1,100 prime lambs every year. The farm sits at about 1,000 feet, so trees are really important to them for shelter on the farm. So if you're speaking to Andrew, there's actually a video on the ITN website if anybody's want to have a look at some point. He talks about shelter and shade, early bite of grass, for they've got an early lambing flock, extending the grazing season, reducing housing costs, obviously if you're extending the grazing season, cattle and that, don't need to come in just as quick. So even a fortnight, 10 days can make a big difference. The big thing is them as well, they just see it as another crop. Timber's just another crop to them. It's long term. They've been planting trees for 4 generations, so it's just seen as a long term crop for them. Also, they look at the natural capital that they've got, the maintaining habitats that they have on the farm. They want to really keep that going and not mess about with it. One of the latest plantings they've probably done is they want to take out a bit of dangerous ground. It's really steep, so native broadleaves on that looks really great as well. And another thing for them, having a lot of livestock on the farm, is biosecurity. So having the trees around the farm and everything like that, there's no nose contact for neighbouring farms. Further up country, we move on to the Barber family that's up near Pitlochry, an upland organic farm, about 1,300 acres. They've got suckler cows and breeding ewes. As you can see here, the system, they've got like their trees in rows and grass rise in between. So they're working on a silvopastoral system with rotational grazing, because so obviously you're aware that makes things a wee bit more productive anyway. The trees give good shelter and shade. They've actually done a cost in the fact that the amount of shelter and things like that they've actually got in the farm, they're actually reducing their new feed costs. So they've worked it out, they're saving about £6 a head. So in any situation, we're looking at costs and everything like that. So saving £6 a head in every ewe over winter feeding, that is quite a big thing. Also, with the amount of shelter they've got on the farm, they've actually changed their breed of sheep. So they went for a traditional blackie to a Texel cross. So that's producing a really good quality prime lamb for them. So that's changed their market, so they can have a store market and a fat sale as well if they want. Other thing as well, as you can see, the livestock are in amongst the trees. They're getting to browse the trees. They're taking up that extra minerals and nutrients that they might need or might be lacking at certain times of the year. They also use the timber on the farm for chipping, for bedding for the cattle in the winter. They use it for building materials, and they also use it for biomass. And another interesting thing they're looking at is planting more trees so they can make the farm carbon neutral and then use that as a marketing tool in the future. So again, multiple things for having trees on the farm. Moving on further up the country again, we move up to Richard Lockett, up near Dingwall, up at Knockbane Farm. This is a mixed farm again, cattle, sheep, spring barley. We've got a mix of the commercial woodland, soft and hardwoods, with a range of ages of native woodlands on the farm as well. So that's providing habitat for wildlife and shelter and shade for stock. Richard started, you can see some of the fields, looking to the left there, that field's quite big. So in that field there, Richard started putting trees in to break the field up. So again, you can look at rotational grazing and that, and then provide shelter and shade for the livestock that are actually in those fields. So the trees are providing, again, in the future, shelter, shade, browse and that type of thing. The picture you can see here is missing the water. The left's obviously grazing, then you've got the fence, and then you've got the trees, and next to that is actually a river. So that's providing, it's reducing peak flows, it's reducing flood management, it's providing flood management, reducing runoff. So it's beneficial for the whole community. That there is actually slowing the water going down into Dingwall. So it's making a big difference for the community. Also, excuse me, they're looking at, it's not everybody's aware of it, but obviously the temperatures we've been having during the summer and that has a detrimental effect on like invertebrates and fish and that in the water. So those trees are actually providing a good bit of shade, so great for your cattle and your sheep in the summer, but also if you've got riparian planting, it's really good for the fish, because when it gets up to about 23 degrees C, it's really it's not very pleasant for them at all. So again, it's providing a food source and shade for fish. And well aware that the River Trust are working in every part of the country trying to get trees alongside rivers and things like that to reduce those temperatures. Moving on to Recipe.
Lynn, I'm just giving you a little timing warning, okay?
No, I've two to do. Recipe's very impressive, but a quick note on that. This is across on the west coast again, Recipe across at Strontian. The Sinclair family have been doing woodland grazing since 2008. So they use woodland grazing. They've got a woodland grazing management plan. So they use their cattle to graze the woodlands, but it's specifically for checkered skipper and paired border fritillary butterflies. So we actually pay them to manage their woodlands. We pay them £100 a hectare to manage those woodlands for those butterflies and everything like that. Brilliant place to visit. One of the biggest events we've ever run on the West Coast. I think we had about 50 people there on the day. It was a really good event, and people were really interested in the butterflies and how they're monitored and everything like that. And you can see they manage their deer really well. On the left-hand side, that was fenced off at one stage, deer fenced. On the right-hand side, it was not fenced, no difference. Deer management, very key for biodiversity and getting things right for anybody planting trees. And the last one is Auchengoilfoyle. This is farm. This is at Tynebrook. We were delighted that we managed to get David and Catherine Lowry on board this summer. It's an 80-acre farm in a temperate rainforest area, so really interesting. They've planted about a third of the farm, which is about 20,000 trees. They did that under FGS. The deer fenced it as well. So we're aiming to return the land back to a diverse, thriving, resilient landscape, rich in wildlife and fully connected. So with that deer fence, they can control everything that's going on in there. So they've got mosaic of woodland, scrub, hedges, species-rich wetland habitats, and they're using cattle to manage that. Also, they've got some lovely ponies that are doing that as well, and they're bringing in pigs to turn over ground and that to actually will help with the restoration. But Catherine's an ecologist, so the place is absolutely, everything's detailed in what they've got and what they actually want to do. So that farm is for biodiversity, but they're producing some really good Shetland beef as well. And just to say, thank you very much. And why wouldn't you want trees on your farm or on your croft or on your estate, because they're good for bees, bullocks and butterflies. Thank you very much. And that's some events we've got coming up, but I'm sure Ellie will be able to share with them at the end of the presentation, or I can send on to her. We've got one next week, one with Phil on the 27th, and a really good one on the 17th. So I'll stop sharing now. Thank you, Ellie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all those insights, Lynn. It's amazing to see what's going on across the country. And yeah, do check out all of Lynn's events. She's got a really good program coming up, always. And now we'll hand over to Roger Howison. And you have Park Hill Farm in Fife, and you're going to tell us all about your farm scale tree integration.
No, hopefully.
And I hope everyone, you can enter questions now. I'm sorry, we were having a minute of me flustering
No.
around trying to figure out how this all
What do you
works.
see?
We see your Nuba map.
It's
Nuba.
working.
We see it. Yeah.
Yes, good. So everybody can see that now. You can hear me.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right. Hi. Hi. So yeah, my name's Roger Howison. I'm a farmer in Northeast Fife, right by the River Tay, just outside a town called Newborough. It's a 537 acre farm. It's a mixed farm. It's about 300 acres of arable, 200 acres of grazing, some of it less favourable. And there's about 12 acres of woodland on the farm in various pockets. We took over, well, this has been the family since 1909. It was tenanted until 2003, and we were able to buy it then. I came back to take over the farm 2011. And we were quite driven to plant trees. Sort of at that time, I wasn't a farmer beforehand, but very aware of what was going on in media, and we were being encouraged to plant trees. So, being new land stewards of 537 acres, we were keen to plant trees. So we sort of had this duty to improve the environment, look after, improve biodiversity, try and enhance its nature, and looking at carbon capture ability of planting trees as well. So we were motivated. We were also motivated to diversify, grow, and nurture and harvest and process and market something that we could grow ourselves. Initially, we were looking at barley to make beer, but then we went down the apple route. And yes, and just a desire to make the most out of the land that we had. So being able to stand back and look at everything and see what does the land lend itself to. And another thing that motivated us to get into apple trees and agroforestry just was our local history. So the slide you're looking at now is an Ordnance Survey map of Newborough. You can see Park Hill Farm, sort of just in the middle there. Park Hill over on the right-hand side. And then on the left, you see Newborough. If you look closely at Newborough, all those narrow strips are actually, or were, orchards. These were full of fruit trees. So this is in 1851. So still today, in 2026, we reckon there are over 1,000 fruit trees in people's gardens. A majority of them apples. And there's pears and plums as well, and they're all basically descendants or due to the monks that came to Lindores Abbey, which you can see just in the middle of the slide there. So Lindores Abbey was established in the 1100s. These were monks that came from France. They were the ones that brought in the agriculture and horticultural knowledge. So once the abbey sprung up, people would flock towards it. That'd be a good place to live. The monks owned all the land round about, so they were the ones that gave these strips of land to the original residents of Newborough in return for some of the fruits or the harvest, the livestock that they were able to keep on these strips. So that's a background as to why we were planting trees and why we wanted to plant apple trees. And another key thing, we were looking to reduce the inputs we put on the farm. So traditionally, my dad had grown a lot of winter wheat. The land that you see in the top right there is very flat, reclaimed land, very fertile, great for growing winter wheat most of the time. But winter wheat is quite an input heavy crop. So we went down back to more spring barley. So spring barley gets planted in the spring. It's more lighter on the land, less chemical inputs. So going to the motivation of wanting to plant something that we could eventually harvest, nurture, market, and sell a product ourselves. Apples was the big thing, but we didn't want to have a traditional orchard. That seemed too intensive to us. So we started looking at other ways to grow apple trees, and that's when we came across Stephen Briggs' Nuffield scholarship report on. He had a big agroforestry project, or has a big agroforestry project down in Peterborough. So we went down to see that, and we thought this was awesome. So the plan was to plant 750 apple trees in single file rows, and 27 meters apart, so that we could still have an arable crop growing in between the apple trees. So I'll come to some other slides shortly that will show you the system. But this slide here, this is me walking the whole thing out and getting ready to plant it. So I was told at the start of this presentation to show the whole thing, warts and all, right? So it wasn't a glamorous setup process. I didn't use GPS. It was a measuring tape and rope. It was very important that the rows had to be 27 meters apart, so that the alley between the apple trees was exactly 24 meters. We're a conventional farm, so the sprayer has to be able to go up and down the alley. I made use of the local kids here, although planting that one row took the same amount of time as it took to plant all 10 rows. So you can see, get an idea of how the system's starting to pan out now. That's the River Tay up in the background there. So that's us looking north. That's our big shed down there. So this is our 16-acre field where we planted the apple trees. Each tree is 3 meters apart, and that young man at the front there, the red trouser, he is holding one of the apple trees. So that's a 1-year-old whip. And each tree went in with a stake and a plastic guard. So here we have, this is one of the mistakes that we made at first. So we put the plastic guard over the stake. We quickly learned that was not a good idea because it made it very difficult to prune the apple trees. We have a problem with roe deer. So basically, by planting all these apple trees here, we just created this big buffet for the roe deer. But ironically, it's not the eating that's the problem, it's the rubbing of the antlers, which is why we need the guards. Mistakes happened. I turned the corner too quickly with my power harrow here. Warts and all, right, Lynn? This was the spring. The trees are just been planted that winter. Another mistake we made here was by really planting the barley first. So the trees are planted. This is us planting the wild grass, the grass and wild flower mix afterwards. So in hindsight, when I do it again, I'll be planting the sword of grass and wildflowers first. But I came across this machine through a local contractor, and that did the trick with getting the grass and the wildflowers planted. That's an aerial view of the system. This is quite early on, so you can see the rows there. I almost got them perfectly parallel with each other. The one row that didn't work, the one alley that didn't work, was the very first one. It's got a slight taper on it, and you don't find out until the seed drill, the 3-meter seed drill, starts going up and down. So it should have gone up there quite efficiently, but one row was not quite right. But all the rest were. If you're wondering what that track through the middle of the field is, at the time we were running a mountain bike event, a downhill, a dual slalom downhill, and that was how it ended. So they had a dual slalom right through the barley field. You can see to do this, when we did this is basically a big experiment, so we weren't sure how it was going to go. The cider apples that we chose are not traditionally grown up here, so we picked one of the hardest fields possible. So you can see the light, the dark bits are the wet bits, and then the light bits are very light and don't hold a lot of water. It's very sandy soil here. This was the system a few years later, so it's started to pan out quite nicely. The wildflowers have come up. The trees are starting to grow quite well. We did grow barley the first year, and then we discovered that ploughing across with the contours was going to be a problem. So we went to, and I always want to try no-till, again, trying to reduce our inputs onto the farm. So we were only able to no-till plant some grass. So we've been taking hay off it for the last 3 or 4 years, but we'll be going into barley in the spring. You see how big the wildflowers got. So there's a lot of competition for the apple trees. I try not to get downhearted about that. We looked at options of spraying round the bottom of the apple trees, but that kind of went against the whole biodiversity thing. Didn't want to kill anything, so we just sort of accept it and know that we're never going to get the same yield of these apple trees as if they were in an orchard, a typical orchard, which is nice and humid. A nice humid orchard is great for yield, but it's also good for the bugs as well. Having them planted in this system, the wind blows right through the apple trees, which keeps the bug pressure and disease pressure down. But again, we don't get the yield, but it ticks our biodiversity and less inputs box. You can see some apples growing on the trees here. So I think we're about our 5th harvest we've had off them now. So of the initial 750 trees, there's about 100 of them have not produced or have been taken or killed by deer or have just not worked in the dry soil. So we're getting about 3 tons of apples off them now. We've got 38 varieties in there. 500 of the apple trees are cider varieties. And it's actually about 3 of the big cider varieties are out yielding any of the Scottish ones in there. So with that 3 tons of cider apples, now we have a great base for our product. So we were able to start making cider about 4 years ago. And I'll come to a picture at the end. That's a nice one of the apples coming in there. So the flowers have blossomed. Now they're going to seed. So we let the flowers go to seed and then we'll top them once the seeds have dropped. It's great for biodiversity. As I said, we've created this kitchen for the deer, but also for the little field mice and voles. Under each tree is probably every second tree, there's a fine nest of little field mice. And they do gnaw at the trees. We don't think they cause too much damage, but we're now seeing a lot more raptors. We see kestrels, but best of all, a bird that we haven't seen, my dad hasn't even seen since he was born here in 1938. We have 2 families now of barn owls, which are just constantly hovering over here, feeding on the small mammals. We've also got some beehives now to help pollinate the apple trees. Our second year, we actually had a baby deer born under one of the apple trees. Was that my warning? Is that 10
I'm
minutes?
sorry. It is your warning.
Right.
Oh, I'm enjoying hearing this.
So yeah, a little baby deer born in the apple trees. Then the deer are the biggest problem, but what do you do when you see something like that growing underneath one? You can't help but love that. Here's a picture showing us so the arable and the trees in action. That's us. We've cut hay on the left-hand side there, and then with the flowers and the apple trees there. And our first year, just to prove that we did do barley, so that's the combine just loading over into the rolling barley into the over the apple trees into the tree there. That's one of our marketing pictures. So we don't pick the apples like that with the 135. We do pick them all by hand though, and take them back. And that is the cider that we're now, I think, our 4th year of making that. So it's now in about 20 shops all over Scotland. Sorry to rush through that at the end. I thought I would be getting better at getting this done into 10 minutes. But
no,
if you've got questions,
Roger.
please, yeah.
It was a tight time schedule, but that's great. Thank you so much. That was really great. Okay, I'm going to hand straight over to Phil, please.
Do I stop sharing now?
Thank you.
How do I do that?
Yeah, and just to say, I've put in the 3 upcoming events for integrating trees network on the chat and the answering the questions. And now you should all be able to contribute to the chat if you want to.
Right, that one. Sorry. God.
I think you're good. Is it, Phil?
Yeah.
Do you just?
No, I need to request multiple presenters, so still Roger's desktop.
Right.
In the top right there.
I'll stop you. Yeah, that should be it now.
Right, there we go. Super
good.
Super.
Right.
Oh, it's jumped ahead. Sneak preview. Can I get an audio on the first screen up? Is it all good? Am I good?
No.
Nothing showing.
Yeah, you're showing. That's fine.
All good. All good.
Yeah,
Super.
all
right.
good.
Well, in complete contrast, it's good to have this land classification map. Look at the colour of Roger's farm down in that bottom left-hand image there. I don't know what grade you are, Roger, but over here on the west coast, my croft is on grade 5.2. Look at that. Grade 5.3, which is fit for rough grazing, as James Hutton and others would kind of classify as that. Of course, it's a broad brush sweep, but it gives you kind of an impression of the geology, which is very unforgiving in many cases here, very hard, resistant, highly metamorphosized rock. And couple that with that image on the right, which is a really nice graphic on the rainfall totals as it falls as well. So I know East Coast has had its challenges with it. We tend not to have too many challenges. It always comes something. We do get what we call droughts. But here on South Skye, 2.5 meters of rain is our average. There's parts of Skye that have 4 meters, parts of Skye that have 900 mils as well. So it is a broad area for that. That's challenging conditions for growing a lot of things. Of course, that the Atlantic is right on our doorstep, throwing in storm after storm. Pretty much all of them roll through at some stages. So a challenging place for growing trees, or thinking of productivity within that. And this is kind of classic views in certain places. Okay, this is an extreme oak as it comes. That's over on Neudart. But many of the first trees here, particularly if there's some grazing around, they struggle to get up and away, and if they do, they just got to take that kind of line. I'm not as extreme as that, but a lot of the headlands you will see have that kind of shape. But just a beautiful classic, and who knows how old that tree is. But no, it's very possible to have. You can see the Atlantic Ocean in the top left. This is part of our croft. This is the top of the croft, planted up with a forestry grant scheme in about 2005. We moved in 2015, so we had young trees all over the croft, still just about under condition of grant when we moved in. Topographically, a little bit of shelter from the hill there, as you can see, but the wind still whips round. And the first trees into ground, bear in mind this is old pasture, really old, rushy kind of tussocky grass as well, so overgrazed probably and then neglected, as many kind of parts of more difficult crofts are, which make it a really difficult bit of ground to get established in. There's no kind of fungal networks or anything. So the first trees in the ground have got to deal with the unfavourable soil and competition, as well as the exposure. So a real challenge. But given time and the right tree in the right place, then you're there. Personally, I would have liked to have zoned it. If I had control of when it was planted, it would be nice to have more of a zoning thing, so I could use it a bit more effectively and work towards productivity. But this is what we inherited, and it's more of a wilder wood within that. A lot of nature within that, a lot of bird life, and lots of open space. So very good floral space and inverts as well. So the bottom left-hand image is the croft, as you can see it from the same image, but that was just as the trees were mounded. You can see the dark dots of soil mounded on there. And you look at it now and you can see that it's grade 5.2, grade 5.3, infested with rushes as it was, and then a lot of Molinia, purple moor grass. There's little pockets there, but I'm not even on that image there. This is before my time. I'm not even seeing any bracken or anything there that kind of gives any sign of brown earth to work with. But today, 10 years on, obviously we're benefiting from the shelter massively. The soil's improving all the time, biodiversity is lifting all the time. We're getting there. We're not beholden to the bank manager with this. It's a croft. It's a 3-hectare croft, so we're able to take it at our own pace and in our own way. We don't have to kind of make a business plan behind this. And in cases of things like apples, it's like, will they work here? How much shelter do you need? Roger was talking about airflow there. How do you make it balance out? But no, apples do just fine here. The key thing is disease resistance. It's a very humid environment here, a lot more rain, and managing airflow is difficult. You don't want too much with the gales, but also if you don't have enough, you get canker and scab and things like that. But I've been trying to experiment with that from the very start, and every single fruit tree I've tried has at least survived, and then we're working on from there. But right now, quince, pear, medlar, plums, cherries, they all seem to work. Not commercially, but from a resilience point of view, I think it's fantastic to be able to demonstrate that, and lots of people are looking at least corners of their crofts. And then the trees are coming away just fine. That's an alder on the left there. I've pruned that to kind of keep it up and keep it a nice tall straight tree. So that's not like that gnarly oak. That's doing just fine. And then things like the multi-stemmed grey willow on the right, great for biodiversity. And now that's prime for me for coppicing for knocking down again and starting afresh. And that's loads of firewood, loads of wood chip, which I'll work with as well. So lots of usable crops from here. I was wood chipping today. I did a few tons today. It's hardwood and it's willow, alder, birch and things like that, which is fantastic for feeding back into the soil. So a lot of the wood chip you get available commercially these days is from Sitka spruce and things like that. Not great, you know, unless you're doing blueberries. This is just absolutely perfect stuff. And loads of scientific papers on willow wood chip being very good at eliminating apple scab as well. I'm not sure if you've seen that, Roger, but that's something with the advantage we've got here. We've got tons and tons of that material. And Storm Floris gave us a bounty of stuff as well. Managing on the right, that's a kind of a coppice or pollard rotation. So I just lock my trees down with hand tools. I can do it with hand tools, but I do it with an electric chainsaw. So very easy and very light on equipment here. And then I've got a petrol-driven chipper. That's my only piece of kind of field equipment, really. And that helps make that resource. And that's all for staying on the croft and in building the fertility and raising the kind of the food growing productive potential. And it's little copses here and there, so it's for biodiversity at the same time. So this area was older, that was getting up to 20 years old, brought it back down, and within 1 year, that's what it looks like. It looks like SAS in ghillie suits on their missions, but no, that's 1 year old regen, and now that's up and away. After about 6-7 years, I can then come into another coppice pollard rotation for that, depending on that. So it's a resource for it, and meanwhile, the birds move in. First year of that, grasshopper warblers move back into that space, having left the croft when the trees got established. So it's opening up things that we haven't considered for a while. And I have a tree nursery because of all the shelter and because of the success of the fruit. I thought I'm going to work on this. Lots of people were asking about which fruit varieties. I was already growing trees anyway, but not fruit trees. And so I started grafting a few years ago and now trying to get as many varieties in the ground for field testing as to what actually works well here. Because you don't know an apple's not going to work on the west coast of Scotland until you've tried it. And of course it's not an exposed, not sticking on a headland on the Isle of Lewis. It's in a croft, it's semi-sheltered, but lots of rainfall and a deeply organic soil. And you can obviously change the microclimate within that. That's a picture of a lovely quint apple, I think, on the right. And they do just fine. And as a croft enterprise now, I probably shift about 1,000 fruit trees a year, which is a good business for me, as well as about 7,000 native broadleaves. And that's a good half my income derived from the croft now. Habitats on the croft as well, without management in many cases. Some areas I do manage, but most of the cases it's seeing what nature can provide. So under the older trees, which used to be rushes, without any management, it's come through as a carpet of pignut after 10 years. Amazing scent coming off of these, great biodiversity and a good resource as well. The pigs, if we had any, would love that kind of habitat. Other areas there, you see a bit more brackety corner there, celandines coming through. So these are just areas that have not been managed, and this is the way nature has kind of taken it in a direction. Some areas they remain pretty rank, but other areas in the top corner, that's the orchard. You can see the apple trees in the corner. They're very different habitat to Roger's there. And in terms of pollinators, we don't have to worry about that. There's quite a lot of pollinators here, including midges. But there you can see that's meadowsweets, angelicas, and ragworts. Amazing wildflowers within that. Maybe not enough airflow. I could say that's a balance out, but incredibly biodiverse spot, and we have a lot of fruit from that. I now manage my fruit trees mostly for scions for the cuttings because of the demand, but we still have a plentiful supply and 2 young kids that eat their way through about 17 apples a day, it seems like, in the late summer. And even at this age now, the trees are 20 years old, but it turned to rainforest in many cases. You know, lichens and mosses and liverworts provides the full works going through. And we forget that native trees, goat willow on the right, grey willow on the right, and bird cherry on the left, are absolutely fantastic pollinators as well. So we look forwards for the flowers, the dandelions, and the first flowers of the year. But you follow your ears, and bumblebees will all be on these things up in the trees. So it's great to have that around. When you've got trees like alder as well, which is a nitrogen fixer, you kind of everything's working as a bit of a system straight off, without much effort on my part. And obviously native forage hedges all around the outside as well. Plenty of stuff for the birds, plenty of stuff for us as well. So don't just think about shelter belt, think about something that could also be productive for you for biodiversity. So as Lynn said, stack value in terms of things. A tree is not just a tree, it can do all sorts of things as well. And one of my specialities is moths. I'm the moth recorder for Sky and the small isles, and so I do a lot on that. I've recorded 300 species of moth on our woodland croft alone, which is a very high list for the West Coast of Scotland for what is just young woodland, and shows you the potential from that. It's just that extra bit of shelter, all those microclimates which wouldn't be available if you imagine all the wind and things that have to come through. A lot of moths won't fly unless the wind is below a certain level and the air temperature is above a certain level, and so you increase the chances of that as long as there's open space within it. I think that is me. Super. I'll stop sharing. How do I do for time, Els?
You're doing great. Thank you. I think.
Super.
What's the beautiful pink moth in the middle?
That's the elephant hawk moth.
That is the elephant hawk moth.
Yeah, so that is a rose bay willow herb specialist. So no rose bay willow herb, no elephant hawk moth. Amazing.
Thank you, Phil. Oh, that was so lovely to see. And over straight away to Matt. Last but not least.
Is that working, Ellie?
Not yet, but it says you've started. Yeah, you're in. You just need to go into slideshow mode.
All good?
Perfect, yeah.
Right, thanks, Ali. Thanks, Nature Friendly Farming Network, and thanks, previous speakers. I think what it proves is that I'm probably the least knowledgeable about trees on here. My name's Matt Griffin. I head up Nepar Farms here in Peebles, just in the borders. We're about 850 hectares. We will be certified organic in September this year. From the River Tweed, we're about 160 metres up to the top of the farms, about 400 metres. We run about just shy of 3,000 ewes and 200 cows. We have quite a big focus on soil health and big compost and worm farm projects going on. So I came here in 21. I've just done 5 years, actually 2 days ago. And the aim was always to get more trees within the landscape and within the sort of grazing platform. We started off with the willow hedges. That was integration of grazing medicinal hedges. Sort of the plan is to try and have that through most of the fields so that stock have access to a medicinal hedge in every field. So that's an ongoing project. We've started a big coppice project just recently, allowing us to gather more whips and rods to plant. The agroforestry has just been completed, just in the last few weeks. And what we call the space trees agroforestry, so that's in individual protection. We've got 10, 15 and 25 meter spacing on different areas. We've got agroforestry strips with about 1,000 trees in there in what we call the lambing field. So we're going to see how that helps us at lambing time. The riparian planted, which was put in the 23-24 winter. That's been a really cool project, and we're starting to see that flourish now. We've put a small orchard in on the driveway here at Edston Farm. That was just finished on Sunday. And we've got a design landscape project just about to start any day now, and hopefully will be completed by beginning of March. Alongside that, we've got Sean, who heads up Tweed Trotters, and he has created a new enterprise. He's producing woodland pork, just had it for my tea tonight, and he's using a lot of the old commercial forestry to run his pigs. We're hoping to probably be killing somewhere around 150 pigs out of the woods this year, and actually it's making a big difference to the understory of those woods. So why more trees? We're seeing adverse weather. Previous speakers have spoken about it. We want to seek more shade and shelter. We want to allow our animals to graze in and amongst it for medicinal reasons. We also are interested in the carbon and biodiversity, and the riparian planting, obviously adding value for the water leaving our farm into the River Tweed. What's really interesting for me is that I've got flocks and herds here that have traditionally always been bolus, and we do still supplement with minerals. We're not there yet, but we sort of know that these animals are, you know, enjoying the willows, so it sort of led us to question what it was that they were looking for. And we did some testing where we tested the grass against the willows, and we were starting to see some really interesting stuff. The grass, probably through poor soil health, wasn't being able to access some of these minerals and trace elements, yet it was in abundance in some of the trees. And then we started testing different types of willow and starting to see that actually, you know, that diversity thing flashing up again, that let's not just plant one species of willow, let's plant lots of species of willow. So this is what we're doing for our willow hedges. If you look on the right hand picture, very, very simple electric 3-4 wire electric fence using steel waratahs as end posts. So it's costing us quite cheap construction. The top wire is movable, so we can drop that top wire to allow cattle to graze and sheep to graze. And we hope to, this is one of our first ones. That hedge there is about 2 years old, but we do hope to change the way we do it, but we're learning as we go. This here is the willows we've just coppiced, and that's allowing us now to gather all of our own whips and rods and sort of larger stuff to plant. So this left-hand side, these are just big rods that we cut down in 22-23 winter. That's actually the 23 spring showing, and then this is the same bit in 25 spring this time. So really, really quickly we can have an abundance of cover and helping water and biodiversity, and also allow animals in there to graze in the future once it's well established. Sorry, why is that not? Page is not. So riparian planting, the blue is us, the yellow is in collaboration with neighbours. So that was really cool to do something with the neighbour there. This is spread across 2 different farms. We've managed to put riparian protection into 2.7 kilometres of waterways, which is quite nice because of all the things that Lynn was talking about earlier in terms of cooling water, etc. So that's been a really exciting project. There's a quick promo video here about what we're doing. So this is early on. We'll do another video sort of this year, 3 years on. But it's just great to be part of these larger landscape style sort of projects that are delivering such massive benefits for local people and communities. So these are our agroforestry projects that we've just started with the sort of spaced trees. They're spread across 2 different farms, and like I said earlier, we got different spacing, so we're just going to monitor that and see how that goes. We're using cactus guards. When we're putting willows in, we're putting 3 sort of willows in, 3 willow whips in there. But we've got, you know, a diversity of trees going into the landscape, and then we can integrate grazing in around this immediately. And then this is in some rougher grazing. We've got them. This is the 25-meter spacing. We've got them quite well spaced here. So we're just going to see what the impact of that is at different spacing. So we've put in a very, very small orchard here on the driveway. Really, really simple design in terms of protection. This will only have sheep grazing in it. This won't be good enough for cattle grazing. But it's really exciting for me and the family to have this right on our doorstep. So exciting to see where this goes with apples and plums and cherries and pears. Then the agroforestry strips of trees that we've put in, where the brief was to try and replicate a lambing shed where we can close off these alleyways, we can shut sheep in, we can create individual pens behind. We've got what is it doing that? So we've got alleyways. We've got 35-meter spacing, so we've got a access right around the outside and an alleyway through the middle for stock and for vehicles. So yeah, again, I'm all very new to this. I just love trees, and I always like trying new things. So we've got lots of different things going on to try out. Then this is our design landscape tree planting, which is about to happen. You can see the key down the side, but you know, a lot of parkland trees in tune with a sort of a historic sort of parkland setting, and then the crosses along the old railway. I was keen to get fruit trees. A lot of families walking that in the future. I hope that kids can pick apples as they go for a walk with mum and dad. And then there's some avenue trees and some sort of riverside protection trees. One thing I'm not very good at, and Ellie knows this, is being very organized and bringing stuff together. I have all these great ideas and lots of big sky thinking. So I've been really fortunate to have some great people around me that have, but I can't underestimate the planning and prep that goes into these projects, from, you know, the fencing to the trees to the organizing contractors and stuff. So I've actually been really fortunate to work alongside some really great people. And, you know, there's a massive thank you to all of these people that are up there. I think Hamish is actually on the call. Hamish, who works for Tweed Forum, who's in the picture there. He's the youngest in the picture. Without Hamish persistently sort of hassling me for numbers and signing bits of paper, these things wouldn't happen. So it's a big thanks to all of the sponsors on that final page. And that's me, Ellie. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Matt. That was great. Oh, it's so interesting. It's going to be great to kind of follow your progress as you learn more, because you're trialing so many different things. I thank you so much, everybody. Amazing insights from everyone. I'm going to jump straight to questions because we are almost to time, but hopefully we can spill over a little bit. Does anyone? We've got a few questions coming in, but please get them in the chat box. And I think I can now unmute you all if you'd like to. Actually, if you raise your hand, then it will allow me to know that you have a question. So if you can see, question for everyone, what specific benefits are you seeing in your soils through integration of trees in your operations, and are you testing for anything specific? So Phil, you've done a little response to that. So maybe should we go straight to Matt on that one? Are you ready to, or shall I give you a minute?
Yep. Remind me of the question. Sorry, I was just.
So what specific benefits are you seeing in your soils through the integration of trees in your operations, and are you testing for anything specific yet?
Yeah, so on my slides, I showed that we're testing nutrient values and mineral status of trees, but also we do a lot of testing around biology in the soils, and we are starting to monitor how that sort of fungi network is moving out from the trees. So we are doing a circumference of the trees and testing bacteria fungi ratios, and we're going to see if that moves out over time and spreads and joins up, especially in the sort of strips of trees, whether we see a sort of network join under the soil.
Amazing. Roger, do you have anything to add to that one?
Yeah, I'm not testing the soil, but it's more a slide that Stephen Briggs shows on his presentation. So Stephen was the chap he's got about, I think, 2,000 or 3,000 apple trees in an alley crop format down in Peterborough, and his slides of the oats that he grows, the oats that's closest to the rows of apple trees is significantly higher. The grains are bigger as well, so showing that the soil that is now close to the apple trees due to the action underneath with the roots combining with the trees is definitely improving the soil and creating a higher yielding crop in the arable alley.
Thank you, Roger. Lynn, did you want to respond to that at all, about how you're noticing different farmers testing the soil?
I'm not aware of any farmers obviously doing specific testing or anything like that, but what Roger was saying about what Stephen shows in his presentation, that you can actually see distinctly on his farm, and I think he's got a friend that started at the same time as him, but he had walnut trees, and you can actually see the crops actually better nearer the trees than further away from the trees because of the fungi and everything like that working in the soils. And obviously the trees are bringing up nutrients. That's what I was saying about the browse and everything like that. a rooting system on a tree is completely different from a grass or a barley crop or anything like that. So it's actually bringing those minerals and things like that actually up where they wouldn't actually have access to the livestock if they weren't browsing the trees or actually grazing next to the trees and things like that as well.
Mm. Did you want to add anything else, Phil, to that one, or you've responded in the...
No, yeah, as I just put in the chat that essentially my ground has changed in 10 years without any intervention from rushes and acid ground to nitrogen-rich brown earth.
Yeah.
So that's just under older trees as they come.
Amazing. And then this another question from Tara was, has anyone had any issues with salinity, and has planting trees reduced this? She's coming from Australia, so not familiar with the Scottish farming, and if salinity is a major issue in the UK.
Not on the West Coast anyway. I don't think it is.
Roger or Matt, Lynn, anyone have any insights there?
No.
Maybe not quite the same issue. I don't know if you want to unmute yourself, Tara, if you wanted to talk more about that, but maybe we'll move on to another question. I can't see any coming through on the chat, but I wanted to ask kind of what advice would you give somebody that is a farmer thinking about adding trees into their system that just doesn't really know where to start? What's the kind of, I know we're working with really different contexts here, but what would you say is the kind of first step? And Lynn, you're up on my screen and probably can speak to this.
You've got a couple of options, really. Again, Scottish Forestry has local offices across Scotland, kind of thing. So if you've got an idea or anything like that, that's where, because we've got woodland officers there who could help you out if you even want to send them a map or anything like that, or concepts. I know it's closed at the moment, but the Farm Advisory Service can do up to, I think it's £1,700 worth consultation for under your specialist advice for woodland creation, woodland management, conservation, and that kind of thing. So I think it opens back up again later on in the year. So that's worth looking at as well, because they'll be able to do your full plan, come out and have a look and everything like that. Again, with our woodland officers, through, if you've got an idea, have a wee chat with them and that kind of thing. And we do have farmland assessments across the Central Belt as well. So we can put you in contact if anybody wants to get in contact with me, or Will, who runs the Integrated Tree Network with me as well. We have that available to people. But again, if there is anybody looking for anything like that, just drop us an email, or my email, Ellie, feel free to share it, and look on the Integrated Tree Network there as well, because there's information there, and our emails are there as well. So there is plenty of places to go. And again, depending on where you are in the country, like the Croft Woodland Project, if you're in the Highlands and things like that, that we support through the Woodland Trust and that kind of thing, there's a lot out there. Just it's finding that person.
Thanks, Lynn. Is there anybody else going to jump in on that?
I would say certainly visiting other folk, learn from mistakes. There's not many case studies really out there of people who've kind of gone on their own path. People often try and fit in with systems and funding as it comes, and it's not been very innovation kind of supportive. So seeing what Matt's done there with others, obviously a lot of things struck on his own as well with that. It's we need more case studies for that. Use the Farm Advisory Service mentoring scheme as well. I know that's temporarily closed as well. I think they've got the allocation, but you can go and doorstop people like ourselves, or get some other advice in for that. For us, we couldn't do anything without deer protection. I know that was one of the questions that kind of came up as well. Unfortunately, South Skye, as a native animal, of course, I don't want to vilify the deer, but we couldn't grow because of the growth rates here. Things are a bit slower, a bit more challenging in exposure. We couldn't have done anything without the deer fence, and that was put in with the forestry grant scheme as it came in, which is Scottish Forestry at the time. If we can start now, that would be the first step, and that's expensive. That is a challenge. Hopefully, the funding model will adapt for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to concur with Phil there too, to go and look around other systems, go and see them. We would have, and it will come down to a big leap of faith. It does come down to that, but going and seeing as many systems as you can. I would never have done it planted trees like that through my that 16-acre field. If I hadn't gone down and seen Stephen Briggs' system and seen it with my own eyes and thought, all right, okay, yeah, I can do this.
What about you, Matt? What would you recommend? And it'd be really interesting to hear from your perspective, like how you're joining up with other farmers and things as well.
Yeah, I suppose a few people are looking over the fence and watching what we're doing. I always try and purposely do stuff next to the road as well. But I think just get on and do it. Just speak to like other people have said, just, you know, and I am incredibly fortunate to have Hamish and Tweed Forum and all of these people on my doorstep, but I'm sure there's these other bodies throughout the rest of Scotland that can help find funding and bring funding packages together and, you know, help you deliver. Yeah, I couldn't do it without the support of all those people I mentioned, you know. So.
Thank you. Are there any
a good plug for NFFN there, I think, is where we're all at as well, and in terms of a networked organisation, because this is exactly why I joined NFFN, and I've been steering group member for all this time, is because of the network of people doing things, trying things, and willing to share as well, particularly warts and all, mistakes and all as well. That's how we all learn, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's true. And people are so willing once they're in and giving these things a go. It's amazing how willing everybody is to share their mistakes, to try and support someone to do it a little bit more easily next time. So yeah, do come and check out all of our events. We are actually just over time, so I think we'll probably leave it there. But if anybody wants to get in touch with us, like as Phil has just said, everybody's very open to hearing from you. And so if you've got any specific questions that they spring to mind afterwards, then please do reach out. And yes, thank you, Phil. A great plug for NFFN. And please, if you're not familiar with us, check out our website and look at our membership. It's free to join, and anyone can join, whether you're a member of the public, a farmer, or an organisation. And we will send you a great newsletter once a month telling you all the things that we're up to and the events that you can come along to. And then we've got lots of partners events that we share and kind of industry updates and things. So it's a useful thing. And also, Lynn, I've shared the Integrating Trees Network's events that are coming up, the next 3 on it's Ticket Tailor that you use, isn't it?
If you just, that's great. Thank you for putting that in there. Or if you just put in Integrated Tree Network, you'll get our posted, you'll get the videos and everything like that as well. And again, just to say, we're looking at summer events and everything like that. We're starting to plan. So if anybody wants to host, is there anything after tonight we think we should be discussing more of during the summer or anything like that? Please let us know. It'd be great to hear from people. As I say, we're farmer-led, crofter-led, land manager-led. If there is anything you think we should be looking at, please do let us know. It saves me having to think about it anyway. I'd rather do something that somebody was really needing and helping them on their way to plant some trees.
Yeah. Thanks so much. But yeah, thank you so much to all our speakers and sharing all your incredibly useful insights and experiences, and for being really open about all the warts and alls that you have encountered, as being kind of bold and pioneering and just giving this stuff a go, which I think is what we're all in that position now, where we just have to figure out kind of what works best in our contexts, in our changing climate. But thank you so much for all being here this evening. It's strange not being able to see your faces, and thank you. But yeah, I hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much, and good evening.
Thanks, Els.
Bye,
cheers,
guys.
everyone.
Cheers.
Good night.
Bye. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Ellie. Much appreciated.
Cheers.
Great to hear from you, Matt. That was really inspirational, I would say.
Yeah, we need to hear more.
I've never heard Matt. I've heard a lot about him, but never seen him. That was fantastic.
That was great. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Nice to meet you all.
Cheers.
You too.
Bye.